Larry Penn Legacy Project here today in Milwaukee with Jonathon Leubner, Surround and Sound Studios. And Larry made many records here at this studio, and we're sitting here with Jonathon today and just wondering if he'd share some memories with that regard.
Well, I had the good pleasure of becoming friends with Larry when I was recording a song he had written called Canon for Washington Square, and it was for a record called One Ball of Clay that was produced by Jim Mooney and Carol Lee. And so he came into the studio and we kind of hit it off. And then over the course of really the rest of his life, I became kind of his go-to recording engineer in studio that he liked to go to. He felt very comfortable in the studio with me. I felt very comfortable with him. He kind of reminded me of my dad physically. He has a resemblance to my father. And they were both of the same generation, and they had kind of the same demeanor, and it just so there was kind of a special thing there that I don't even know if Larry was aware of, but it's one of the things that drew me to him. And of course, there was his music. We recorded, I think, 8 or 9 albums together over the course of maybe 15 years or something like that. And these were studio albums. And then in addition to that, we recorded several live albums together. One was Mayday at the Pabst with Utah Phillips. We have another show that we hope to release someday. That was the following year, and it's a really wonderful performance by Larry. And then in addition to that, we recorded a lot of songs that Larry was writing for specific people or occasions or something that was in the news. He would call me up, and this is a typical Larry Penn session here at the studio. He would call me up and say, John, I'd like to come in and record a new song that I wrote. And he would come, and we would sit here in the control room and talk for a couple of hours. And then we'd look at our watch and say, oh, I suppose we should record this song too. So we enjoyed each other's company a lot, and we had a lot of camaraderie together. We shared a lot of political views together. We shared our love of family together. We talked a lot about family and friends. He valued his friends a lot, and and then during the course of recording the song, we might run through it a handful of times. And as Larry got older, he leaned on me a little bit like a cane in a way. There are some times where he would make it all the way through a song and it would be like 99% perfect. And he would hear that one thing. And this kind of cracked me up when it would happen, because I would hear it and I would say, let it go, Larry. This is so good. And he would say, well, I didn't play that one note in the chorus as I was coming out of the chorus. And so he would dig into my editing capabilities occasionally and make him that 100% perfect. And but I want to say that one of the things that I was so moved by and impressed with Larry and the songs that he brought to me to record together is that there was always such a depth to what he was writing about. And the other thing is that every song, I felt like I had heard it before, but I had never heard it before. There's kind of a timelessness to the way he would compose his songs. And I also think that he was taking it from the folk music tradition, and he was carrying on something from the past, putting it in the present, and then it would go into the future. He knew that he was part of this bigger cycle of things musically, and we were able to capture a lot of wonderful moments like that. And I would say we've been looking through the archives and trying to figure out how we can share his legacy musically. And in order to do that, we have to identify what we have. And he has a boatload of stuff that has really only been heard by a handful of people. Sometimes it's just he and I who have heard this stuff. And I'm looking forward to being able to share some of that. It's going to be wonderful.
And Larry Penn's many fans are grateful for you creating an atmosphere where an artist like Larry could feel comfortable, and because that's a very special relationship when an artist can do their best. They have to really feel comfortable and not vulnerable, and you help create that atmosphere for this wonderful artist that we all love as Larry Penn. So we also want to thank you for making that space and recognizing what needed to be recognized when working with Mr. Larry Penn. So thank you, Jonathon.
Well, I'm not sure if it was the kitchen table at the Penn household that he was sitting around with his friends telling stories and playing songs with, but he sure was comfortable here. It was always a joy to spend time with Larry. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathon.